Today, we have options trading legend and serial entrepreneur Tom Sosnoff to discuss crypto, options, and of course, the listing of HBAR on tastyworks. Tom, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you coming on.
Well, it's going to be fun. It's a different topic for me, so I like it.
Well, good. So just in general, why is tastyworks interested in offering crypto services?
It's part of I believe that our role, if you want to be a really good financial service company, you have to be the ultimate facilitator of opportunity.
Okay.
And so in order for Tasty to be the ultimate facilitator of opportunity, I have to offer everything. Like there should be nothing we hold back on, as long as it's within, as long as it doesn't upset the regulators to the point where we get in trouble or something like that.
Yeah.
Anything that we can offer that has what I consider to be efficient markets, I think we have an obligation to our customers to offer it.
Yeah, makes sense to me. So what do you look for in a digital asset as an investment or for a tastyworks listing?
Well, so about 2 years ago, I went out and bought a piece of a company that I really liked. The CEO, young CEO, building a digital asset settlement company called Zero Hash.
Okay.
And Edward Woodford, who's the CEO, I really like him. I've been following him and talking to him since he graduated from MIT. In I don't know, maybe 6-7 years ago. I think I invested in his first company.
Okay.
And so I've really liked this kid, and he's not a kid anymore, but I really like him, and super smart. And I've been following his career. And as he built up Zero Hash, I watched them. I didn't invest at first. I waited. And the reason I waited was just because I didn't like their original model. They were going after an institutional space. And when he came to me at one point and said, listen, what we're building is we built some really cool technology, but the model doesn't work. And I go, well, whenever you're ready to sit down and talk, I'm happy to talk. So we sat down, we talked, and I said we would invest, and we become the largest investor if you changed your model to service retail customers, because then I can use you. And they thought about it, changed their model, and now they've built this amazing company that they just raised money on, almost a $300 million valuation. And when we first invested, it was on a $10 million valuation. So it's like, it's pretty wild. So, but it's all on him. I mean, they built, an incredible company, and we had nothing to do with it, except we just helped them we made the right investment at the right time and helped them, re-engineer the model. The only reason I'm giving you the backstory is because we did not want to build our own back end, cash crypto platform. It's like, it's a very small. So to give you an idea of our business, we do about, let's say 78% of our business is listed options. About 20% is futures and futures options. And the remaining 2 or 3% is crypto and stock. So it's a very small percent of our business on a relative basis, notional basis. I mean, the stock business we know is not going to grow, and there's no money in it for us. The crypto business is very interesting, and we think it's going to grow. We're like probably at 2% right now, and maybe it goes, to 4 or 5%, which we're hoping for. But I feel like I'm a huge DeFi bug. So like I'm building, 2 crypto stacks, 2 technology stacks right now that are focusing just on crypto, Web3, everything else along those lines. So we're building some really cool technology that'll be ready in a year or so. So I've got the bug, and I also wanted to be in front of all of our competitors. I mean, TD does not offer crypto. Schwab doesn't offer crypto. E-Trade doesn't offer crypto. Fidelity doesn't offer crypto. Interactive Brokers just started offering crypto. So all of our competitors, we'd be the only person with crypto. So, that's the backstory. So whatever Zero Hash whatever blockchain Zero Hash could write to, I was comfortable offering those. And we'd sit around and talk about it, to make sure we had, the top 10 and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
We offer 25 digital assets right now.
Okay. Well, that's exciting.
Cash only.
Okay. Yeah. No, understood. I'm going to ramble here a little bit, but I'm on board with you for thinking crypto is going to do really well. And the way I look at it is we hear people saying that, it's a once in a multi-generational opportunity. And we have these technological booms. You go back in canals and railroads and automobiles and computers and the internet. And crypto is certainly going to be one of those technological revolutions. There's true frontier use cases, whether it's, like you said, DeFi or NFTs or micropayments. These are things that weren't possible until there was DLT technology. But we get those every once in a while. So why is it multi-generational? And there's another aspect to it. And the way I look at it is something some people get a little bit crazy about with money in the past was gold rushes, right? You'd have a school teacher from Philadelphia going to prospect for gold up in the middle of the Klondike. And it was because at the time, it was the medium of exchange, right? Gold was money. Well, this is a digital gold rush, essentially, combined with that technological revolution. And that's why I think it's going to be so explosive. So I think you're on the right track.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said. I think that the jury's still out, and the reason the jury's still out the idea of digital assets having their place as an asset class has been validated, and it's done, confirmed. That's not going away. But the different use cases which will develop over the course of the next couple of years will depend a lot on the type of regulatory clarity that comes down.
It's critical.
Yeah, specifically in the US. Now, I understand the whole purpose behind a decentralized market is that it is not just about what the US does. But if you're talking about the biggest pools of liquidity in the world, if you can't master the liquidity pool in the US, it's virtually going to be impossible for crypto to be ultimately globally validated in what we want to happen, because it needs to be correlated. It needs to have a brother-sister relationship with other asset classes, so that it truly is both a diversified product, and it also is a practical product. So I think that the key, the one open variable, well, there's probably a lot of open variables, but something that's very important right now is to wait and see what happens on the regulatory side. Other than that, I also think the last week, especially with what's going on, right now in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, is another validation, just based on price alone, that digital assets have a place. I'm not talking about as a workaround for sanctions or anything like that. I'm saying what we've seen the last week is that with the Russian stock market collapsing, with the Russian currency collapsing, people that had diversified portfolios and put money into digital assets saw no contraction in their market value of those assets.
Sure.
And that is a very important, piece to the digital asset, and the decentralized world of kind of functional assets. So I think that that's a huge validation, in times of global crisis, in times of, individual country crisis, or whatever you want to call it. But at certain binary events, it just passed the stress test in a big way. And so I think that's another reason that's another reason that the regulators have to take this space very seriously.
And you know what? There's been a few stress tests. I couldn't agree with you more, but there's been a few. So, in the spring, crypto had a 50% drawdown, right? And DeFi was in full swing. And if you had a 50% drawdown in the equity markets or in the bond markets, there would be things that would get a little bit bumpy. DeFi continued on without a hitch. So, it's proved itself a few times, but you're right. It's proving itself again.
But price is much less relevant, So a 50% drawdown to me means absolutely nothing, because I could easily argue here that prices for digital assets are way too high, but yet the space as being defined by the amount of investment going into it is, I'm sorry about that. Let me just turn this phone off.
No problem.
But the amount of money that is going into the space as investment is way too low.
Mhm.
Like, so I don't actually care about price because the asset space is in its infancy, and price to me is not that relevant because it's very emotional right now.
Okay.
What is important to me is the amount of capital and the amount of resources and energy that's being committed to the space by people like me,
Mhm.
in the sense that, like, if you look at our um, technology budget, which is pretty decent size, we're a whatever $5 billion company,
Mhm.
and if you look at the amount of money that we are putting into innovation right now, so I'm not talking about like maintaining our platforms or building onto our existing platforms, but if you look at where we're spending the most amount of money in innovation, it's all in the decentralized space. And
Yeah.
to me, that is the most important thing. I don't think the rest of the world is thinking. I mean, I know a lot of younger firms, like whatever you want to say, like crypto.com and FTX and Binance and Coinbase. Of course, they think like that. That's their
Mhm.
business. But when you talk about, big financial institutions, like, do you think BlackRock's thinking that way? Do you think State Street's thinking that way? Or Schwab? I don't think there's a chance in hell. I
Not
don't think
yet.
they're anywhere close. Yeah,
Okay.
you're exactly right. So I like being ahead of that curve. And I think, that's the validation on our part. We're fully committed.
I love it. That's exciting. I was going to ask you why you chose HBAR, but it sounds like your partner is the one who does the vetting on that. So maybe I'll try to sell you on HBAR later on down in the interview.
Well, what's funny is that it's a lot of it's done by customers writing to us.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, we have to have Cardano. We need Cardano. Like, we'll get 700 emails talking about Cardano, and the next thing you know, okay, we'll write to that blockchain.
Sure.
It's a lot of there's a lot of work, and it's not like there's a centralized exchange.
Yeah.
So it's not like adding another stock that goes, there's an IPO, there's actually a lot of technology integration because there's nothing centralized. So it's not as easy as just saying, oh, there's a new, here's a new digital asset. We'll just throw it on the, we'll throw it on the fire type thing.
Especially, yeah, especially when they're not all blockchains. Like Hedera is an example. It's actually something else. It's a hash graph. So it's a different animal. So there is a lot of technology considerations.
There is, and that's just on the execution part. Then there's a whole nother part, which is, all the money movement that goes to, because you have to basically move money from one type of securities account into the digital wallet, so to speak. And then there's a lot of trust factors involved, and there's a lot of risk involved because it's not centrally cleared. It's not guaranteed. There's all this other stuff. And then it's a whole different market making system. Yeah. So, it's one thing to write to a blockchain, but then you've got to make sure that you've got market making firms that are willing to support the product 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Not just one market making firm, multiple market making firms. And then you've got to set them enough business to keep them open all the time.
Sure.
So
sure.
It's, people think, oh, just come on, Tom, turn on Solana, whatever you want. Just what's taking you so long? I'm like, dude, it's not that freaking easy. It's not like, oh, this company just went public. I'll just, we'll just start trading on them on Tuesday. It doesn't work like that in the crypto world, in the cash world. So, we've come a long way in a short period of time, but there's still a ton of stuff that has to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. So would you say you have aspirations to offer crypto options at some point? I would think that with the volatility.
We're 90% options, of course.
Yeah, of course.
That's the simplest answer ever. The answer is, if we're not the first, I'd be shocked. But let's remember that there is no regulatory clarity whatsoever in the U.S. about. So the reason we can offer cash crypto is because, by definition, it's not really a security. But once you get into the world of leverage, as soon as but that's why it's cash crypto. There's no leverage. You're paying for it in full. Once you get into the idea of leverage, all of a sudden it becomes a security. The security side is much more complex. Now, the CME has Ether and Bitcoin futures, and they also have the micro futures. And on March 28th, they're launching options on the micro futures.
Oh, okay.
So at the end of March, we'll probably wait like a couple of days before we roll out the options just to see if they trade. But assuming that they trade, starting in April, you'll be able to trade micro options on Ether and on Bitcoin, and the contract size for Bitcoin will be only $4,000 about,
Okay.
which means it'll be super cheap. And on Ether, it's only going to be about, whatever it is, $300.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be a tiny contract. So every retail investor will be able to trade futures of which we already offer on Bitcoin and Ether, and also the options. So there will be a marketplace within less than a month, but that will be a regular listed marketplace. That won't be like, you won't be able to trade that on Coinbase. You won't be able to trade that on FTX. You won't be able to trade that on crypto.com or any of those places. But at Tasty, you can trade all that.
Okay. So, and one of the things that I was kind of curious about was the barriers that would be in place to having crypto options. And so one of them is obviously regulation. And if you want to be one of the cryptos that's offered, at least in that way, you would need to get a futures market.
As of today.
Okay.
And I'm not saying, listen, there's 11 option exchanges, and they're all probably applying right now to also offer. The last thing that any U.S. exchange wants to do is to see the business go up to, like we really don't want to see the business go to FTX, or we don't want, we want the business to be fungible. Mm-hmm. We want it to be listed. We want it to be centrally cleared. Even though it's a decentralized product, we want it to be centrally cleared, take all the risk out of the equation. We don't want the counterparty to be Binance. Mm-hmm. We want the counterparty to be, the OCC.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
understood.
There's no question we are going to get to the point where we have, a listed marketplace for all these products. We just don't know exactly what it's going to look like right yet. And
saying it's fungible, that means it's essentially one market that's offering all these things. Right. Okay. So everybody can tap into the same thing.
Yeah. Like it's not going to matter where it trades. Right now, it's just on one exchange. So it's not really fungible. But like in the option world right now, if you trade let's just say you trade an option on Apple, mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. There's 11 exchanges. It makes no difference where you trade it. They offset no matter wherever you open or wherever you close it. It doesn't make any difference to you. Okay. And so you're just going after the best markets. If you trade a share of stock now, it doesn't matter where you trade that stock. Because mm-hmm. Whenever you sell it, everything is offset. Mm-hmm. So you don't care. You don't care who you sell to. You don't care where you sell it. But if you're making a trade in crypto right now, you can't. You make a trade in crypto, cash crypto with us. Assuming that you keep it, you basically have to keep it with us. Mm-hmm. And we don't let you transfer it out, and then you're going to go back and sell it through us.
Yeah, understood. So often with stocks, with its share price under $1, it has small market caps, low liquidity, and it might not be suitable for options contracts. In the case of HBAR, it has a decent liquidity. It has a multi-billion-dollar market cap, but it still has a unit price of about 22 cents. Traditional options contracts are in blocks of 100 shares. How do you think you would structure a contract around something like HBAR so it makes sense?
I think it would be very difficult at a 22 cent, at 22 cents. They would either, there's a couple things you can do, but I don't think, in the world of digital assets, I don't think anybody's ready for a reverse split yet to get the price up. Do you know what I'm saying? So to reduce the float. So, my guess is that it'll be very difficult to get options on HBAR anytime soon. It'll probably be much further down the line. You're going to need an underlying price, to have options in some capacity of mm-hmm. some reasonable number, whether that's $5 or $10 or $100, whatever it is. You can't do it on something at 22 cents.
So, well, and that's a good point. Again, it has a $9 or $10 billion market cap, but
which is plenty enough, by the way.
Yeah.
So you can definitely offer options on a $10 billion market cap. You could technically do a synthetic reverse split. I'm not sure if they want to do that, but you could synthetically reverse split it. So instead of if it at 22 cents, you could say basically, I'm going to do it. One contract represents, what would that be? 10,000? No. One contract would represent 100,000. That kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, they already so HBAR, because it's the base currency, they have things like hectobars and kilobars. Like a hectobar is 100 HBARs and a kilobar is 1,000 HBARs. And then the megabar is 1,000,000. So you could actually, you could start, it looked like it was going to be possible, you could start, instead of having HBAR on tastyworks, you could have hectobars and it's 100 HBAR. And then you could build a contract around that, something along those lines.
Absolutely. So that all we would need would be, a firm willing to make markets in, in those. The question is just like, it just depends on the volume. Really, that's it.
Sure. Makes sense.
The one thing about market making firms, when you get into the world of options, you're talking about the Citadels and Susquehannas and Simplexes and Virtus of the world. They don't give a rat's ass what they're trading. It's all just about scale. So as long as there's trade, it could be widget 1, widget 2, widget 3. It makes no difference to them. They're not in the business of taking risk. Yeah. So all they're going to do is just, basically spread everything off against the underlying. The reason that crypto will be interesting in the option world is because it trades 24/7. So there's a lot less risk to the counterparty.
Okay.
Because they can always hedge their position.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm guessing this might be a no, but can digital assets be used as collateral in tastyworks?
No.
Saw that one coming.
As far as I know, they can't be used as collateral anywhere.
Yeah.
At least at this point in the listed marketplace, because there is no regulatory. They're not a security.
Yeah, no, makes sense. So obviously there's thousands of tokens and with their own narrative. Do you think there's going to be consolidation where a small group of winners emerge, or do you think there's going to be more expansion? Essentially, will the top 10 tokens take market share over time?
So that's a really interesting question. And I think the 10 top tokens will dominate for a long time to come. But I don't think that will, reduce the number of new tokens that are introduced. But I don't know, what are going to be the true differentiators to make something stand out enough. It is very difficult at this point to get your tokens listed. Yeah. With I don't know what Coinbase charges $5 million now to list something or something that.
I thought it was 500,000 or 600,000, but wow, yeah, that's a lot.
No. I think it's like 5 million, and other places are like 2 or 3 million. I mean, I think even Zero Hash is a couple $1 million just to get it, in the system, and that and how it, that you kind of have to do that to get to firms like us if you want customers to trade them. So I think the barrier to entry is pretty steep, and will and remember, we're talking about technology play, which is very different. So a lot of people that create different digital assets are hardcore engineers that are more interested in what they're creating than they are of the actual dollars, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if somebody's going to be interested in somebody else's technology. I just don't think that's going to be a big part of the digital asset world. I don't hear one person. I hear people in the digital asset world go, "Oh, those guys suck," but I never hear, or ours is better for this reason. But I never hear anybody say, "I want to buy them."
Yeah, no, I understand that. It becomes very tribal.
Yeah, exactly. I'll sit here and I'll go, "Wow, I'd love to buy that company," because that's the nature of the business I'm in. But I don't see anybody saying, "Oh man, I want to buy these guys." It doesn't happen. Yeah,
once you're on team HBAR or team Cardano or team Bitcoin, it can be difficult to get some cross pollination there. But for my 2 cents, I do think that there is going to be the top 10 are going to do better over time, and there is going to be a lot of market share that goes to them. But I don't think it's going to be the current top 10. I think there's going to be changes up there, but there is going to be market share that's allocated to whoever wins up at the top.
There always is. I mean, my God, there's no chance that there's not a dramatic amount. I think it'll be hard to move Bitcoin and Ether off the top 2. Just to give you an idea, they do about, I would say 85% of our volume is those 2.
Yeah.
So it'll be very hard to move those 2 off the top. But once you get past the first 5 or 6, I think there's going to be a lot of adjustments. Oh, yes. Yeah.
So you mentioned Coinbase. I think I heard you mention at some point. Do you know Brian Armstrong?
Do I know?
No? Okay. I was going to see if you could put in a good word for HBAR over there, but that's all right.
I don't know anybody, nobody in this industry. The only people that talk to me in this whole industry are people like you, because people that that like either watch Tasty or that know the kind of firm we are, but that like the insiders of the world of finance avoid me like the plague. I can't explain it really.
I don't understand why. You're a great educator. I've appreciated everything I've gotten from you.
Exchanges avoid us. Firms avoid us. We are the black sheep of this industry. I don't give a shit. Believe me, I could care less. I love. I don't do institutional events. Like if you were some institutional firm that wanted me to speak, on a podcast or something, I wouldn't do it. But I only do, people that talk to retail investors and to customers. I'm not interested in the institutional side of the business.
Okay. All right. So you already kind of touched on DeFi, and you can certainly elaborate more on that. But what are your thoughts on NFTs?
I'm very bullish.
Yeah.
I'm very bullish. I have multiple NFT projects underway. I believe it's just in its infancy. I don't think it's going to look anything like it looks today. I'm not interested in the world of NFTs as they are today, believe it or not. But I have another vision for NFTs, which I think is, which I'm working on, which I'm not going to discuss right now. But I am extremely bullish on NFTs.
Well, I mean, it does what a lot of crypto does. It gets rid of the intermediary in a lot of ways, and they can actually be bearer assets. But there's actually a company called DLA Piper. It's one of the largest law firms in the world. It's one of the Hedera council members. They have a platform called Toko, and they've actually issued NFTs that are securities in the bond market already. Now, it's still kind of proof of concept, but they are actually bringing it to production. So there is some fun stuff going on there.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question in my mind that we're going to be that NFTs are going to be part of, every online brokerage platform is not just going to have just crypto, not just digital assets, but they're also going to have, a digital wallet. They're also going to have, a place to put your NFTs. They're going to have variations of, internalized NFTs for validation purposes. So all that stuff's happening.
Yeah.
We may be a year away, but it's happening.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question about it. The world will be tokenized for sure.
Yeah. I agree with you.
So what do you think is currently missing from the crypto market?
There's a lot of, from what I can tell, there's a lot of know-how that's missing. So what you have in the crypto market, and this is just my 2 cents, I'm just rambling now, but
keep it coming.
The crypto marketplace to me has a bunch of really brilliant software engineers. Okay. But they don't really have anybody that truly understands market structure and trading. So you've got this disconnect, and you've got a bunch of yahoos out there in cowboys in crypto land who think they know what market structure, how markets work, and they have no idea.
Yeah.
And they can learn, but they're really far behind the curve. And so they've gotten by on brute strength tech. If you think about the weakness in the financial service sector, it's technology. It truly is technology.
Okay.
And so what you have is you have a lot of really people with a lot of know-how about market structure and how things work, but you have very crappy technology across the whole, because it's all legacy crap that goes back for decades. And they can't upgrade it because it's just too slow, it's too hard, all this stuff. So the crypto world comes along, and now you've got this amazing technology, but you got no market know-how.
Yeah.
And so if you kind of asking me what is it missing, that's what's missing.
Okay. Well, we need people like you with your kind of expertise to get them knowed up.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying this as some kind of an crazy egomaniac, but
it's true.
You really do need a different level of expertise. It doesn't exist today.
Yeah, I'd agree. So what's your long-term perspective on crypto and how it will work with the traditional financial system? Do they compete or enhance each other? I think I know the answer.
Oh, no, they don't compete. They enhance.
Yeah, they enhance.
Yeah. They have to.
So that was the end of my questions. Since this is a Hedera thing, I'm going to give you a quick spiel on HBAR and why I think it is a really good cryptocurrency. There's several things that we look at when we judge a cryptocurrency. There's the speed, there's finality, there's governance, there's environmental efficiency, and Hedera and HBAR is the cryptocurrency for Hedera, are at or near best in class in every single one of those things. And you don't necessarily have to take their word for it, because for the security, that's one of the other things, their ABFT level of security, they proved that with a COQ proof from Carnegie Mellon. Their environmental efficiency, the University College of London and University of Singapore both put out papers. Both of them ranked Hedera is number one as far as efficiency. And it's more than just the environment, right? Efficiency allows you to do all kinds of things. Their fees are super low and things like that. Finality, you can just look at their dashboard. It's faster than credit cards. And then governance, you look at their governance structure, and instead of it just being, a group of developers or something along those lines, they have Google and Boeing and IBM and Deutsche Telekom and Nomura. They've figured out how to get the expertise they need to properly govern the platform. So you put that on top of what I talked about with crypto in general being a great opportunity, and I think you have a pretty good investment. So that's my 2 cents. I gave you my quick pitch.
Where do most people trade Hedera?
HBAR you have it on Bittrex, and Binance is another one. There's several different exchanges. It's on most of the big ones, but somehow it's missed some of the ones in the US, Gemini and Coinbase and Kraken. But it is fairly well supported, and soon to be supported on tastyworks. So we appreciate it. Good.
Well, that's great. So any idea when you'll have the connection done to Tasty?
Oh, no, I don't. I'm not on that side of it, but I can certainly find out.
Okay. No, I'm just curious. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. I appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. Do you have any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, that was a really good talk. I thought, you did good. That was good.
Good stuff. Thank you very much.